Imagine this. You see one of those incredible videos showcasing a newly released drone product, and it's showing places like Iceland, Norway, or even Africa, and you say to yourself, I want to get footage like that too. So you go out and you buy an expensive drone, and then what happens? Well, you don't got money to go to these incredible places because you spent all your money on this drone. So the drone goes up on the shelf, collects dust, and you even forget how to use it. Well, we're gonna solve that problem for you today. I'm gonna show you some of my favorite cinematic tips to capturing incredible drone footage. But before I do, I'm gonna show you one of my own cinematic reels of the city of Atlanta, Georgia. And hopefully this convinces you that you may not have to travel very far in order to capture incredible drone shots. So are you ready? Let's roll the video. You guys thought I was going to give you some cinematic drone tips, but in fact, I was just testing out the firmware on this drone. The new firmware is supposed to make the drone teleport, but I couldn't get to work. Maybe it's this button. Oh, man. I thought the update only teleported the drone to a new location, but apparently it does to humans too. Man. This technology these days is getting super advanced. I can't even keep up with it. But being that I'm here, I might as well give you my tips. So let's go ahead and get this started. So the reason why videographers say to use ND filters when filming is because it's what's going to allow the most proper amount of motion blur that we're used to seeing in our daily lives. So if you move your hand in front of you like this, you can see a certain amount of motion that is occurring. And in order to achieve this, what you're going to do is you're going to take the frames per second that you're filming at. So for example, 24 frames per second, and you're going to double that and you're going to set your shutter speed. So it would be 1/48, and then you would pick the shutter speed, whatever is closest to that, which in most cases is 1/50. So with a shutter speed that slow, you're going to need ND filters, which act like sunglasses that you can attach on the front of your lens. And this is going to be very important for when you have moving subjects within your video, or you're flying really close to obstacles. And this is where that motion blur is going to be the most evident. However, if you're going to be flying really high up in the sky and there's not going to be a lot of motion in your frame, honestly, it's really not going to be that important. And you wouldn't even really be able to tell the difference between a shot that was filmed at, say, 1/50 shutter speed versus 1/1000 or higher if there's not a lot of motion going on in the shot. And in fact, a lot of times I'll even leave my ND filter off if I think there's any possibility that I might take a photo up in the sky. And this is because I actually do want that shutter speed to be much faster in order to get the sharpest image, especially when it's quite windy outside. So I would say for, yes, the most cinematic look in your videos, over time you should save some money and try to invest in some ND filters. However, if you don't want to, or you don't have the money for ND filters at this time, then don't sweat it. Because the most important thing is to actually go out and fly your drone and get the shots that you're imagining in your head. However, what I think is more important than purchasing ND filters is the time of day that you go out, which leads me into my next point. What is even more important than purchasing ND filters, in my opinion, is the time of day that you go out and film with your drone. There's several times that you could possibly go out depending on the type of shot that you want, but there is golden hour, which is approximately 45 minutes after the sun comes up, and that 45 minutes before the sun goes down, which creates the best lighting situation that you can get. The sun's going to be really low in the sky, the light's going to be a lot more diffused, and you're going to get that beautiful golden hour light that you often see in cinematic films or videos. So as far as which one to choose, morning or evening, in order to film with your drone or any camera, it's really going to depend on the mood that you're going for. If you're going for a more uplifting and dreamy feeling within your video, you're going to want to place yourself in between your subject and the sun, and preferably the sun a little bit off to the side so it's not creating this really flat looking light on your subject, generally around a 45-degree angle, but this is going to create that really uplifting and dreamy look. However, if you're going for a more silhouette-y and dramatic look, you're going to want to shoot into the sun and place your subject in between you and the sun. And again, preferably the sun a little bit off to the side around a 45-degree angle or so. Or if you want that extreme silhouette look, you can shoot directly into the sun too. But that's what will capture that most dramatic looking footage that you might be after. There is also the blue hour, which is around 15 or 20 minutes right before the sun does come up, or that 15 to 20 minutes right after the sun goes down. And that just creates this beautiful kind of blue haze where the atmosphere is still lit by the sun, but it just creates this really nice dramatic look as well. As far as further planning the time of day to go out, there are certain tools that you can use that will help streamline that whole process for you. And one of the tools that I like to use is an app known as PhotoPills. It is a paid-for app. A couple useful tools that you can utilize within it if you want to plan out the direction of the sun and where it's going to be in relation to your subject. You can come into this planner and you can put a pin onto your exact location, and then you can see exactly the direction in which the sun is going to be, as well as the specific time in which you're going to need to place yourself on that pin or location in order to capture that shot that you are dreaming of. And then if we go into the sun planner, then it'll show the exact times for golden hour, blue hour, and then some other incredible features within this app. Definitely something you should look into further if you want to step up your game in planning out your shots. It can be quite disheartening, all the new released drone tech that is coming out. Seems like DJI is releasing a new drone like every 6 months and advertising it in commercials and YouTube. There's no doubt that these new tools can be very beneficial, make your flying experience a lot smoother and easier, and can make filming a lot funner. However, what I've learned over my years of flying is that you've only got so much mental energy and time in a day to expend. And if it's spent obsessing over the latest and greatest gear, you're not gonna have any more time and mental energy to go out and fly and get those shots you've been dreaming about. The more important thing is to realign your focus to what you currently got and improving your skills, such as learning proper composition and positioning yourself at a certain place at the most optimal time in order to get the best shot possible. Would I love a new DJI Mavic 3? Well, absolutely. But about 90% of that video you just watched was filmed with my trusty Mavic 2 Pro. So go out, fly with what you got, and improve your skills, such as composition, and another skill that we're actually going to talk about next. Concerning contrast, it's important to ask yourself what your main subject is and how you can position either your subject or your drone in a way to where they stand out the most from their background. For example, if you're filming a human in this grand landscape during golden hour sunset, you probably wouldn't want to have your drone really high up in the sky pointing down at your subject to where the ground is their background. It might be more optimal to get your drone a little bit lower to where the background is the sky itself, creating contrast between the sky as well as your human subject. Another example is if your main subject is walking through a grand landscape on like a really dull or cloudy day, you probably wouldn't want them to wear really dull and neutral colors such as gray or black or something like that. Have them wear something vibrant and punchy like a bright orange or a bright yellow or green jacket. Let's say you're filming a building and it has a blue color. Probably wouldn't be very beneficial to film it during the middle of the day when the sky is often this bright, saturated blue. Might be better to film it during golden hour sunset when the sky is illuminated this beautiful orange, creating this color contrast between the orange sky and the blue building. And in general, just go out, have fun, and look for things that are unique that you are not used to seeing before. Let's say you take a trip to Europe. In Europe, they have some of the most grand architecture in the whole world. And this gives you the perfect opportunity to film something that is unique to that particular location. Seasides often have those buildings that are aligned next to each other that have all these different colors. And that's something also unique that you can film. And really the list goes on and on. The most important thing is you just have to actually go out and take your drone with you. And even when you think there is no opportunity, still send it up in the sky because you never know what you're going to capture. Whenever you're making any sort of video, whether it's a drone reel or just a traditional film, your goal is always going to be to want to tell some sort of story. Drone shots are typically going to be sprinkled in alongside normal footage that's shot with a camera as transitional elements. They're great transition shots to lead the viewers from one location to another. If you want to see an example of what I'm looking at, check out my London cinematic film and you will see how I use drone shots in order to take the viewer from one location to another. Whenever you're playing out your video, you're typically going to want to incorporate some sort of beginning or initiation, and then the middle of the film, sort of the progress that whatever your subject is taking on in their journey, and then as well as some sort of resolution or ending within your film. This can be kind of hard with a drone cinematic reel or film. So one thing that you can do is have your beginning shots possibly start in the morning, leading through middle of the day during the middle of your video, and then you can end your video with nighttime shots. And this could sort of give that feel of telling a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It can be quite beneficial to write out your shots and to plan them in a certain way. You can use tools like Notion or OneNote to write out your shots. I often like to use Google Sheets, where I literally just create this Excel document where I can go out onto the internet and pull Google images of shots that are quite similar to what I'm imagining in my mind. And I can even write out compositional techniques that I want to incorporate into my shots. I can write out their movements and just write out descriptions of my purpose in getting that shot. It can be beneficial to go out to locations to do some pre-scouting to see the best place where you can position yourself in order to have the great transmission range with your drone and where you have the greatest line of sight. And often it can be beneficial to even revisit places. The more and more you go to a place, the more familiar you're going to get with it, and thus increasing your chance of getting some incredible bangers. Make sure that you're utilizing tools such as Google Maps. If you can't visit a place beforehand, and you can turn on your satellite view and then switch on the 3D function within Google Maps, and then you can get a bird's eye view of exactly what your drone might see when you are flying in the sky. Do plan your shots the best that you can, but try not to constrain yourself to only those shots, because in the middle of your flight and your shoot, there's always going to be opportunities that come up that you could have never planned for. So plan your shots, but make sure that you're flexible through the process. Going along with evolving through the shooting process is shoot a lot more than you think that you might need. You got your planned shots that we talked about before, get those shots, but then keep recording, because opportunities are always going to arise mid-shoot that you would have never even anticipated. Nowadays, hard drives can store so much more files on them, and so there's really no excuse not to keep recording. If you get back to your studio and you find out that you have a bunch of rubbish footage, you can always delete it. But if you don't get enough content, then you're simply just gonna have to go back to the scene and reshoot. Shoot multiple takes of the planned shots that you are trying to get. The reason why is because this is gonna give you the maximum flexibility to choose the absolute best shot in the edit. And oftentimes you're not going to get that shot on the first take. So it's best to take 3, 4, 5, or however many attempts necessary in order to get the best shot. I know how excited that we all get when we're flying our drone for the first time, but always take a moment to ensure that you hit that record button. They say audio is half the experience of any video, to include drone cinematic reels, and that is absolutely right. The music that you choose has a tremendous influence on the emotion or feeling that your audience is going to have. Choosing the wrong song for your video can really break that film. It's really important to go through the process searching for that perfect song that's going to fit and align with the emotional intent that you want within your drone film. If possible, go out onto music platforms and search for a song that's going to align with your emotional intent, and really break the song apart into those storyboard elements that we were talking about earlier, such as your initiation, your middle, and then the resolution of your story. And then even go as far as to identify those happy moments, those dramatic moments within the music, where you can pick drone shots that are really going to incorporate very well into those parts of the music. Some platforms that you can go out and search for music. There are many, but you can look on Epidemic Sound, MusicBed, Artlist are a few of my favorite, and there's many others like I mentioned, but I found that there's not really a single place where you can get all of your music needs. Realistically, you just have to search all of them until you find that perfect song that meets your emotional intent that you want to convey in your video. Let's talk about the very last point that we will cover today concerning getting the best drone shots, and arguably is my favorite and probably one of the most important. Unfortunately, if you just send up your drone from your backyard or point it at some flat landscape that doesn't have any features, you're probably not going to get very good drone shots. The location and where you go is arguably more important than the actual drone itself. In a lot of cases, some incredible places to go and film with your drone are mountains, large cities, things like that. But it doesn't necessarily have to be these places. It could really be any place that gives you any sense of wonder or majesty. Ask yourself, if you get excited about the place, it's probably worth filming with your drone or with any camera. I challenge you, pick up your camera and drone and go out there in the world and explore. Find something that's worth sharing, film it, and bring it home and share it with the world. I hope you enjoyed this video that I put together. If you got anything useful out of it, give it a like. Please consider subscribing. And until next time, take care.